Hey, this is Shobit from Intentional Product Manager. Today I'll be talking about 9 concepts that I believe every single product manager and aspiring product manager should know. These are the same concepts that have really helped me in my career when I was a product manager at many startups, at Google, and then it's helped hundreds of my clients, helps them get to the next level in product management. So stay tuned for more. Okay, so concept number 1 comes from Marty Cagan. Marty Cagan writes about what he used to call dual track agile, or now in new terms, he calls it continuous discovery and continuous delivery. So I really like the dual track agile because it denotes really what's going on in the life of product managers. So most people think product managers are working with engineering teams. They are working with sprints, delivering products. They're obsessed with the agile framework, with derivatives like safe and whatnot. And what they're missing is the core job of the product manager. What's the core job of the product manager? It's to deliver products, as Marty calls it, which are usable, feasible, and valuable. Valuable to the users, usable by the users, feasible for the company to build. And one thing that he adds on top is like it creates business value for the company. Now, only part of that is actually working with the engineering team in the build process. A big part is what happens prior to the build process, where you go and validate your ideas. You want to make sure that if something like this was built, it would be valuable for the user. And then as you're building it, you're also trying to figure out if what you're presenting to them in terms of UIs or APIs, it's understandable, it's usable. So that's the concept of dual track agile, or continuous discovery and continuous delivery, is all about the fact that while you might be working with engineering teams within a given sprint, there's just as important second sprint going on, where the end goal is to create validated items for your backlog, which you're like, cool, this will solve a user's problem, and so I'm going to put it on the backlog so then it can be scheduled for the actual development sprints. Now, activities might involve interviewing users, observing users, looking at data, creating prototypes, putting them in front of users, getting feedback, getting inputs, making users go through mock sessions, or even running tests and stuff like fake door tests. Fake door tests are where you might put a link for some feature that sounds interesting and see how many people click on it. It doesn't lead to anywhere, but at least you get to know that, this has value. This is something that appeals to the market. So the concept of dual track agile, or continuous discovery and continuous delivery, is something that product managers should really get to know. I'll also leave a link in the description of the video. The next concept is the concept of positioning, something that a lot of people get wrong. Positioning, they think of it as positioning their product, but really the concept by Jack Trout, Al Ries, they wrote this classic book called Positioning. It is all about your customer's mind. So some of the important things that they say, I'll try to find it in the summary, is that once a mind is made up, it's almost impossible to change it. So the impressions you're building for your product, they really stick. And the thing that they really talk about is how to simplify your message to the extent that it gets through the clutter. Now, this book, I forget where it was written, but it was like 30 years ago. Think of, at that time, they were talking about that the community, the society is over communicated, that there's just so much messaging going on. Switch that today with social media, with all these ads trying to vie for your attention, YouTube videos, whatnot. It's become dramatically worse. So what gets through is very simple messages that in some sense appeal to people's base instincts. Like the core needs that humans have. There's a good post by, there are a lot of different ways of looking at these basic human needs, but Tony Robbins writes about 6 human needs, and I believe that's why some of his work really appeals, is he simplifies concept. He says, hey, you move away from pain towards pleasure. That's how you act. Very simple model of human behavior. You'll have a lot more complex one. This is what catches on. The oversimplified message is the one that gets through. So why is it important for product managers? Well, you have to really figure out the go-to-market side, and in the go-to-market side, how you're going to position your product is key to making sure it has enough reach and people actually start to evaluate it, and then they might start to use it. I've seen many cases where the positioning was just too complex, and like I didn't get it for the longest time until literally other people simplified things. So an example of this is Airtable, becoming a super popular company now. But when initially it was positioned, I was so confused because it said, a spreadsheet, which is like a database. I'm like, I don't need any of that shit. But if it had talked in terms of use cases where it could solve for me, the frustrations, the limitations I felt from spreadsheets, I would have become adopted then. I've become an adopted now, but they could have gotten me much, much sooner. Positioning, very important concept in product management. By the way, if you're going to use some of these concepts for product management interviews, I want to make sure you avoid some of the mistakes that a lot of product managers make in those. So I'm going to leave a link to a video that helps you avoid those mistakes. Okay, concept number 3, the LNO framework, the LNO effectiveness framework by Shreyas Doshi. Now, Shreyas, amazing writer both on LinkedIn and Twitter. He also has some courses which I believe are really good. People talk highly of them. So the concept he talks about is when you think of tasks that are vying for your attention. And look, product managers, I haven't met a single one who doesn't complain that their schedule is just completely packed with tasks and they don't have time for strategic work and so on. What Shreyas does is really simplify into the thinking about tasks into 3 buckets. So you begin with O, or overhead, where for everything you do, you get less than 1 time the return. Attending meetings where you're not needed, just joining every single sprint session that there is, every single agile ceremony, taking notes and sending them out. Like a lot of those, you really want to try to automate, simplify, get out of, delegate. Those are the ones that give you less than 1x overhead. Neutral are ones that give you some success, like, a customer interview is probably, depending on the value of it, somewhere between 1x and 10x, something like that. User stories, maybe less than 1x, maybe 1x, depending on the context. So those are like just the 1x tasks. And I think, and the last category of tasks is the 10x task, where you get the maximum leverage, where, whether it might be like putting out a long-term roadmap or strategy or, vision, or like doing a lot of customer interviews and synthesizing those into things that really make people pay attention. Those are 10x tasks. And he also, I'll leave a link to the Twitter thread, but he gives you different things to do with these. So like the O tasks, just get it done, actively try to do a bad job, or really what he's saying is that, hey, just like try to give it to other people for whom it will be better than an O task. N task is do a good job, that's it. L task is where you become a perfectionist. This is a very important point that he raises. So most people have perfectionist tendencies. Some have more than others. I'll not say where I stand. And then they apply those to the wrong kind of things. They're looking after things that have limited return. While for me, that's like just do an adequate job there, move on, and then apply those tendencies to tasks that have maximum return, like the leverage tasks. That is where you should be focused on just doing an amazing job and do really well there. Okay, concept number 4, business model canvas. So this is really a strategic management template used to develop new business models and document existing ones. It's a mouthful, but this, I forget who it's done by, Alexander Osterwalder. He even wrote a book, and then there have been many derivatives of it, maybe even more applicable to product management. So feel free to check those out. But the key thing, if I bring this up, is it makes you evaluate all the different value proposition of a product. All the different aspects of what you need to think about about a product, like, what's the value proposition? What channels would you use? How do you build relationships with customer? What's the right customer segment? Cost structure, revenue streams, like really forces you to take a look at the big picture. And it's something that is there on one page. So anyone can look at it and anyone can add comments, update it. So there's a lot of feedback loop going on and it drives alignment across the company. Business model canvas must check out. There's also some derivatives. I'll try to find some links and post about those as well. I'm glad you're investing in thinking through these frameworks and these concepts and learning those. Even so, even if you learn all of these, there's often like hidden things that could really stall your career. It happened to me. I was really focused on like these concepts and didn't really think through some of these other aspects that could be like those things that you don't even think about until it's too late. So I'm going to leave a link to a video where I talk about the 7 things that stall a product manager's career. Next concept is blue ocean strategy. Now, I'm reading from a summary, but I highly suggest you go buy this book and read it. Why is it so important? It really helps you figure out how do you go from a red ocean to a blue ocean. What does that mean? Well, red ocean is where, there's a defined market, let's say ERP systems, and people are just like competing ones against the other. And it's called the red ocean because it's filled with blood. People are fighting each other and it's like filled with their blood. That's the whole concept. Blue ocean is where you move away from something like that and where you create a new market where you have no competitors. Sounds wonderful, right? So the reason why this concept is so powerful is, number one, it gives you a lot of examples and ways to think about how you could introduce new dimensions in which people are not even competing right now. A little bit of creativity and customer research required there. And by that, you basically go and stand in a market of one. That, hey, like we are uniquely positioned to do this. We, invent new dimensions in which we decide to compete, new attributes for people to evaluate. And we are obviously the leaders in those. Now, other people might start to mimic you and copy you and do other things later, but you have achieved like the core position. Like, some of the concepts he talks about or examples they talk about are Kleenex. Kleenex, it's a tissue. But a lot of people, even now when they ask for a tissue, they say, hey, can you give me a Kleenex? Really, they're asking for the tissue. They don't care what brand. But like that's the kind of position it occupied, and it was based on a certain strategy. So really good, must check out book. And one of the things I love is there's some simple frameworks that can be used with the rest of your group, the rest of your company to gain alignment. Things like based on I think it's called either Blue Ocean Canvas or I forget. I'll find a link posted as well. But what you can do is you can then present it to the company and say, look, we're going to be the best in these dimensions. In these areas, we're not going to be the best. And we're deliberately making a decision to not invest in being the best in that area because that is not aligned with our strategy. Cool. Makes a lot more sense than we're going to be world class at everything. So check out Blue Ocean Strategy. Next concept, minimum viable product by Eric Ries. So minimum viable product is one of the concepts that is so muddled up and so confusing. So I want to talk through a few aspects of it. What minimum viable product is not about a product that customers can use. They might never be able to really use it to get to the end outcome. It's a version of a new product that allows a team to collect the maximum amount of validating learning about customers with the least effort. Okay? So, validated learning. Eric Ries, in his book called The Lean Startup, he talks about doing stuff like, fake door tests, which I mentioned earlier, which is literally you have something there that the user can click and go into, and there's no product behind it. But the idea is that you've validated that there's interest in the market, and you might even get a list of people who sign up for hearing about it first. So you're trying to get validation about your concepts, your ideas, and you cannot rely on what people say. So one of the things that product managers discover as they go through their careers is that what people say and what they actually do would be very, very different. Even when you talk about their pasts, it might be wrong. Like, if you ask somebody like, hey, how many times do you go to a gym? Oh, I go 4 days a week. Awesome. How about last week? Oh, I was busy. This person had the flu, so 2 times. Okay, how about week before? Oh, we were on vacation, so none. Okay, how about week before that? Oh, like something happened to my dog and my cat and everyone, and so I just went once. So even the past they make up, their future behavior, people lie. And it's not because they're bad, they just think they're going to do something, but when it comes to reality, they actually end up doing something else altogether. So that is why minimum viable product is so important. Now, most people think that this is the first version of the product, like the minimum product that will solve customers' needs. Not necessarily true. It's just about learning. There's actually a separate concept, so let me bring it up. I'm searching. It's called minimum lovable product. Also, a good article. I remember seeing a different one somewhere. I'll try to find it. Maybe it's this one. No, I'll find a different one. But essentially, minimum lovable product is cool. We are going to launch it, and actually people will get value out of it, and we're going to keep it minimum, and then we might add more features, but it solves the customer needs that we are after. So minimum viable product versus minimum lovable product, very important concept. And that immediately brings me to the next concept, which is called the hook model. So the hook model, let's see. I forget the name. Who's the author? Nirayal. Great book. He's written one book which is all about manufacturing desire, and then he's written a book which is the other side of it, which is to remove distractions. So he sort of come 180 degrees, and he's been like, cool, I also understand this negative things associated with that. So why is hook model important? It is, in it there are various things like trigger, action, variable reward, and investment. These concepts, they lock in usage of a product. So let's look through an example, right? Trigger. So let's look at Instagram. Trigger is like you get a notification or something like that. External or there's an internal trigger, which is you now get used to just like opening Instagram to check out what your friends are up to or what celebrities are up to or whatever, for whatever reasons. Then you take the action. It's after the action is driven by motivation and ability. Is there motivation, and is it simple enough to do? So Instagram, you just launch the app and you have this stream of stuff to look at. So very awesome. Variable reward. This is super important. You don't know what you will get when you do that. Don't know what awesome pictures are on Instagram, but it sounds exciting. Which is why I don't have Instagram on my phone. Otherwise, there goes my day. So Instagram's not on my phone. It's only on my iPad, and I choose to go there for it. But coming back, it's a variable reward. Even email can be thought of it like that. You get this internal trigger, and there might be all these awesome things waiting for you when you open your email. Like for me, some new people joined the program. Somebody emailed saying some awesome things. Somebody who I'm trying to build a relationship with, partnership with, got back. So who knows what could be there. So the variable reward is super important. If you get the same thing, you're not going to get hooked on. And then it's the investment, which is like the user's asked to do a bit of a work. And the more work user does, the more they get hooked into it. And then this creates this infinite loop where the user's literally hooked onto your product. So very important concept for product managers, especially as you think of influencing people's behavior to use your product more. If so far you've liked this video, please make sure to hit like and subscribe to this channel. 2 things happen. You get more useful videos from me rather than, cat videos. And also, more people get to see videos that will actually help them get to the next level in their careers as product managers and just build out better product and be good with people. So do it for yourself and do it for the world. Okay, next concept, opportunity solution trees by Teresa Torres. So Teresa, really, she came up with the book that talks about continuous discovery. And now Marty Cagan has also adopted that concept. But the idea is that you're always trying to validate, like discovery, when you're trying to validate ideas, figure out what customers need. That's an ongoing process. Now, one of the things she's really done is that she's really helped explain to different people what you like, how you're going to go about this process, and really help you put your thinking out over there. So there might be a desired outcome, like a business goal. There might be various opportunity space, like customer needs, pain points, desires, that if addressed help you get to the desired outcomes. There might be a lot of different solutions that relate to each particular opportunity, or people call it custom problems or opportunities. And then under those, there's many assumptions that you're making. So that's where the tests come in, the assumption tests. So I'm going to leave a link to this one. I'm not going to go deep detail because these are super powerful but deep concepts. And you'll probably find 80% of product managers are not yet there where they're using it, but the most advanced ones are, and really helps them and their teams get aligned. So I will leave a link to. So 80% of product managers are not even using this, but if you start to use it, you could become pretty advanced and do really well for yourself. So I'll leave a link to this particular article. Number 8 is the Kano model. I love the Kano model. So what is the Kano model about? It's about the fact that there are certain features that what we would call as must-haves. Others which are they're sort of okay. So Kano model is about thinking through user behavior and expectations for a particular category of product and figure out where your features lie. So some of them might be performance features. The more you have, the more satisfied a user is. Tesla, if it moves faster, probably I'll get more, they'll be more satisfied up to a certain point. Musts be are simply features that are expected. If you don't have it, this will be bad, but you can't really overachieve on it. Now, an example of this that a lot of people have given is hot water in a hotel. If when you go to a hotel, most people end up getting up around same time, getting ready for the meetings and work day they're going to. So they turn on showers at a similar times. And now imagine you have to serve 500 rooms, all with hot water around the same time window. So the hotel has these complex hot water tanks and everything, very complex, expensive mechanisms built up which allow that. So it's a lot of investment, but it's not you're never going to call your friend and be like, guess what? I turned on the shower and I got hot water. But if you don't get it, you'll be really dissatisfied, right? So that is a category that's just expected. You cannot really overachieve it. You can't have high performance, but you can really suck and do really bad. Security, privacy are similar things. If you have a leak, boy, you're screwed, but you can't really overachieve on that. And then there's things that are attractive, that just blew us away, which you didn't expect. And this changes over time. So an example in this article is first time you use an iPhone, such a fluid touchscreen interface with you zoom in, zoom out, all of that just blew people away. But now it's sort of expected. You've gotten used to it. So this is the surprising category. Now, and then there's the indifferent categories which are irrelevant, and basically these are money sinks. Now this is super important because many times when you're thinking of backlog, it's too one-dimensional and you're not really balancing the investment that you must have or from delighter features, or you're building delighter features where you have even gotten to a performance level that's absolutely required. And so being clear on what your delighter features are going to be, what your must-have features are going to be, what are performance features, and what things you shouldn't build. Amazing way to actually visualize and think through your backlog, and even think about how you're investing in different aspects of your product, and do you have a balanced investment portfolio. Concept number 9, R metrics. R metrics. It's a pirate metrics by David McClure. Now, these have evolved a bit and people have more derivative versions of it, but this is the one that got super popular. where David talks about essentially, or Dave talks about the different aspects of the funnel and how you should think about metrics there, and it helps you figure out where things might be getting broken. So I'll leave a link there. Really good starter metrics framework. There's others that have come up that are maybe even more advanced and more important, but I would begin here. Hey product peeps, if you like this video so far, I am sure you'll love this other one. So check it out. Make sure you watch it in full, and I'll speak to you soon.